RUBEN AMORIM has promised to take Man United players back through the basics of football, but which players do need more attention than most? This is the United Hotspot, and here we are to talk about some of the solutions that Amorim is set to bring and employ at Manchester United if we are indeed going to walk the journey, but walk it in the right direction. Well, like, share, and subscribe as we get into this conversation. Now, all players have got a lot of work to do to work on themselves. In Ruben Amorim's own admission, it was probably only Nusal Mazraoui who impressed him, talking about how brilliant a player he is, how smart he is. He plays in any position you put him in, and he says he's going to be an important player for the team because of his ability to play everywhere, but also how smart he is and his understanding of the game. That's according to Ruben Amorim. Very, very clear on that. He also went on to talk about Ahmad and how Ahmad played to the book. The instructions he was given, he executed to the latter because his role was to mark the winger and man-to-man marking, run with him from start to the end of the game. When you have the ball, go at them. When you lose the ball, come back and mark, don't lose your marker, which he did. And he says Ahmad improved at this all week, each and every day. And clearly, for me, I'm not surprised by Ahmad's improvement because you see a kid who has got the right mentality. You remember how he used to ask Ruud van Nistelrooy after training, keep him behind and ask him questions about what he needs to do to improve. You see a player determined to succeed. For me, that's an attitude that we want, and it's good that even Ruben Amorim is seeing that, and that's why Ahmad is proving to be an integral part of Amorim's system. And guys, even other players are trying to improve. I saw Diogo Dalot, who did not have his best of games clearly, but uh, Dalot, I think, tried to keep his position. Remember that before, under Eric Ten Hag, Dalot had to invert himself. When he passes the ball, joins the midfield, and inverts himself to add to the midfield. In this new system, he has got to stay there, to stay wide. That's his role. Stay there, stay disciplined, stay wide. And you could see that he tried to maintain his position, but of course, with a lot of thought. And Amorim saw it himself. He said one of the issues the players had is they were playing while overthinking about what they have got to do. You pass the ball and you try to remember, what am I supposed to do next? It doesn't become a routine or part of them. Understandable. It was the first game playing under a completely different new system. But same with Ganacho. He improved on trying to defend. You saw him trying to run back and fighting, in his sloppy way, trying to fight for balls and win them back. Beautiful stuff to see. But there are certain basics when we do have the ball, certain basics that Amorim has identified that he's going to try to work on. Just even the body posture alone of players when, or even when they're anticipating receiving a ball. Certain players like Rashford, even Garnacho himself, have always had the wrong body posture when they are trying to receive the ball. Wrong body posture when they are going to pass the ball. That's why many a time you've seen wrong passes, what look like wrong passes, and you're thinking, how are players at this level playing such wrong passes? It is because the basics of the game, how you position your body before you take a certain pass, is something you must have learned at some point. How you decide, the decision is supposed to be up to you as a player, instinctive, but guided by basics, knowing and understanding the basics of the game. Now, Amorim says these players make wrong decisions because there are certain basics which he cannot teach them at this level because these were basics of football. But there are certain basics that made them, lose the ball in ways you cannot explain for a player, for an elite footballer. And these are the same issues, by the way, that Eric Ten Hag faced. So what we are seeing now is Ruben Amorim is exposing the ineptness of most of these Man United players and how incompetent most of them were. You can look at a player like Nusal Mazraoui and look at his understanding of football, and you clearly see that Mazraoui's knowledge of the game is way ahead of probably anyone he found at Man United. You look at Delete, slow as he might be, Delete's issue is a bit being slow, not knowing what to do. But you look at him and you see a difference, and you see these are players who have a different understanding of football. You look at a player like Lisandro Martinez, and you see their understanding of the game is different. So clearly, and this is why Ruben Amorim has been clear, talking about how players need to be educated, and there's need also to be there's need for a change in the recruitment system, because the profiles, most of the accumulated problems we see at Man United are because of accumulated problems in recruitment. That if you keep recruiting players who have not got the right education of the game, they are going to expose you. Players are struggling because they have failed to master things that they should have learned at a certain age in their game. So what Amorim and Eric Ten Hag have done is expose the rot in the recruitment system that they inherited, but also the rot, the lack of education in football by some players. Even at Man United, players who came from the Man United academy look like they were not properly educated of the game. So there are certain things in the modern game that these players lack, and Amorim is set to try and improve players in those areas. Now, but remember, you're improving players on basics of the game, yet you're expected to be beating teams like Ipswich. You're expected to be winning games each and every day, each and every other day. How then do you have that balance? Amorim, of course, confirmed that he will be rotating his team. Spoke about rotating the team and how he's certainly going to keep doing that because of the intensity of the fixtures. But I think that's the polite way of saying that I'm going to give the more educated players a chance. And I'll tell you, for certain players like Casemiro, players like Eriksen, some of the older players, Rashford, most of these players, it's impossible to educate them. All you rather do is go and resort to the youngins who are more hungry and more trainable. Because young kids of today are smart. These Sekou Konis and Godwill Koku Konkis and the likes, Harry Amas, the young kids, the millennials, whatever you call it, Gen Z, actually not millennials, the Gen Z are smart kids, I should say. You teach them something, they grasp so fast. The only thing is they just don't have the motivation to be consistent, but they are more exposed and their brains, I think, work different. You find a 3-year-old kid doing things you couldn't do at 6 or 7. So I think the brains of kids today are different. That is why, even in football, Amorim might be forced to resort to the Gen Z and the 17, 16, 18-year-old kids who will adapt to the things he's trying to teach his team. And they will do that so fast. So that trust is what has got to be there. So we have got to work a lot on the basics. But to be fair, I think he tried to do that, because never mind us having two old timers in the middle and one in the back who could barely run. They didn't have the lungs to run, understandably. These are natural hazards, I should say. But at least you saw that there was a desire for players to try and run and fight, but just that their bodies couldn't allow them. So for the people who judge Ruben Amorim's first game based on having Casemiro and Eriksen in the middle, and for me, that's the painful bit. People are judging the man on something that he explained, but also that even without explaining, logically you should understand. He's played Casemiro and Eriksen because Kobe was not fit. That's why he did not play a minute. He is not fit. He was injured for some time. He just returned from injury. Ugarte had one training with the team. He couldn't start that game. So who did you expect him to play? Would he have forfeited the game? But people are still judging Amorim because he played Casemiro and Eriksen, and because they were slow and guys were still not running. And you're saying, guys, are you surprised? What should he have done? He even explained it before that, guys, you will see the idea, but the personnel were not there. For me, I think certain times supporters of Man United can be stubbornly blind or deliberately pretend to be blind even on things that are obvious that they see, just to try and push a point, bring in Ruud van Nistelrooy. I hear people now saying Ruud van Nistelrooy could have won that game, and I'm thinking, do people use their brains sometimes? This is a new era. Move on from Ruud van Nistelrooy. Amorim is not going to be sacked tomorrow for Ruud van Nistelrooy to come back and take over the job. Amorim is starting a new era under Ineos, a new identity, a new playing style. That was his first game after 1 week with a few of the players. In total, I think he had about 3 days with all the players to change everything. Guys, did you expect things to work out perfectly well in just his first game of changing everything? Let's be honest. But do we see positives? Like he said, you will see an idea of what he wants to do. Did we see the idea? I think it was more beyond clear. Let's be logical, but also let's understand that we know that the issue that United has had, the players, and Amorim is not going to get new players tomorrow or the day after. He has got to manage with these players in the system he's trying to implement until the debts allow for him to adjust and also the resources until the transfer window is there, but also money made available to him, but also players on the market that can fit into what they're trying to build. So we have got to be logical. Otherwise, the negative noise and energy. I've seen memes, people posting memes I think this system beat a certain or fourth division club in Portugal, and I'm like, how? Why start this trolling now just after one game? You saw the idea, didn't you? Unless you're blind to the game. So for me, I don't like the energy. To be honest, I wasn't. It wasn't the most an overwhelming start, but it was not as underwhelming as I would expect. People forget that Ipswich has at the